Good morning, welcome back. So, as I was saying, I've been playing Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which is the newest in the series, now on the PS5. This game was a real selling point for the PS5, showcasing amazing graphics and lightning speed load times. I was excited to pick it up, and when I did I found that it wasn't quite what I'd hoped. It was fun, and a good game, but I feel like it could have been something greater, a real must-play that just fell short. Most of this video is going to be me complaining, but they did do a lot right with the game that I enjoyed. It is very pretty as advertised. The environments and characters alike have a real fine attention to detail. I like the story too. I'm not the biggest Ratchet & Clank fan, so I didn't know most of the recurring characters, but the story is simple and straightforward enough that it does the job. I liked that there was a level select. I remember in a previous Ratchet & Clank that I played, there was a sort of open world that you flew through on a spaceship, and I'm glad they didn't do that. Just selecting a level does just fine. The rocket boots are a really neat mechanic. It's like a built-in vehicle you can deploy at any time, and I enjoy that the go faster mechanic needs a few pumps to really get going. There are also some really cool collectibles, gold bolts hidden throughout the levels that you change weapon and item skins, add graphic overlays, or even give the characters teeny tiny heads, and that's fun. But there are still some areas I think the game falls short. The first one is a bit minor, and it's a bit of a personal thing, but space as a theme isn't very interesting to me. Some people love the space setting and aesthetic, but Ratchet & Clank doesn't really do a whole lot with it. There are aliens, they look weird, and they act like people. Check and check, please enjoy your generic space game certification. Rivet and Ratchet are the same character. They play the exact same, they have the same weapons, and when you gain abilities through progression, both characters have access to them, which doesn't make sense in the context of the game. Rivet might go through a whole level to get the super slingshot, but now Ratchet inexplicably also has the super slingshot. I feel like this is a big missed opportunity to add some variety to the levels. What if Ratchet was the same, all shoot first and ask questions later, while Rivet set up and lured enemies into traps like a covert resistance agent might? 90% of the game is playing as Rivet and Ratchet, so changing the levels feels like more of a formality, since it's really just more of the same game. Continuing with the motif of repetitiveness, we have the lack of platforming. In the first level you get the Phantom Dash, which can be used on the ground or in the air, and gives Ratchet and Rivet the ability to wall run. There's a short little platforming section to try out your skills, and then you never have to do that again. Why is there no interesting platforming levels anywhere else in the game? Even when you get the rocket boots, it's mostly just go fast, steer, and jump. The combat feels so much more explored in different environments and mechanics, while it feels like the platforming was largely ignored. And it makes the game more repetitive as a result, because now the game boils down to walk to the next fight. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is the story of the one time the Dimensionator tore through space-time and caused rifts to appear throughout the world. These rifts are boring. They're a glorified grappling hook. They look sick, don't get me wrong, but mechanically they work exactly the same as a grapple, which has already been used in previous games, and is even used in this one without the rift mechanic. There are also rifts in scripted sequences where it loads different environments, which is neat I suppose. It feels more like a gimmick to demonstrate fast load times than an actual mechanic, since the player has no control over these scripted sequences. And lastly, the rifts contain pocket dimensions for bonus challenges. These bonus challenges are also pretty lame. I think they should have been more difficult. Difficulty is interesting in Rift Apart because once again the combat steals the show and most of the audience. You can change combat difficulty, but there's no way to make combat or platforming more difficult. That's baked into the game. I understand the base game having fairly simple puzzles and platforming since it will need to gel with the easiest game mode, but why is the optional side content just as easy? I like the idea of revisiting the speed snail mechanic but in a more difficult context, or having the pocket dimension as a place to put a wicked hard platforming puzzle, but instead it acts as more of a do the same thing but again optionally for an optional reward, which is a shame. Lastly, I think progression has a big problem in the game. In the first level, you'll come across enemies that shoot at you, and some enemies with big ball hammers that try to hammer you. And by the end of the game, you'll face those same enemies, again. I feel like there's some variety in the enemy types, but it doesn't seem tied to progression. Some fights get more difficult with the addition of yet more bad guys to fight, but that's not more interesting than fewer bad guys to fight. The plot also has this problem with lack of progression. Ratchet and Rivet always appeared just as far away from their goals when they started, and despite gaining new abilities, they don't feel like they've grown any stronger. They were always heroes, the game says. But I don't feel like I've really changed this world, left my mark on it. I feel like I was clicking some buttons sitting at the movie theater, making vroom noises and leaning to the side as I turn as Lightning McQueen in the Piston Cup. Anyway, yeah, if you already like the Ratchet & Clank games, I'd recommend this one. It sure is another one. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the discussion forum below. Have a nice day.